thought she was removing that sign and saying no meeting today.
No, what? No.
I was like, oh, no.
Morning. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. What? Yeah.
Full house. But didn't need to put it in the records.
Morning. All right. Morning. Anybody on the line?
Nikki from the controller's office.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
Jason York, sir.
Hi, Jason.
Austin Weiss from McCormick.
Hi, Austin.
Morning.
Does she have
What? Hey, hey, Pat. We have a copy of the,
Thanks, Jess.
thank you. We'll give paper. Thank you.
I don't see us currently live.
We had, there was an issue with YouTube last time too. I don't know if maybe that's the problem again.
Ready?
Yeah, we can start, but we're not live. I'm trying to figure out what's.
So it'll be taped for,
They'll still have it taped, that's what we did the last time,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, good morning, everyone. I ask you to please rise for the opening prayer and pledge allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, this morning we celebrate the young adults graduating from high schools, colleges, and trade programs. We ask you for your guidance as they enter the next season of life. We continue to pray for Uvalde, for those that did not complete their school year and had their lives stolen from them. We pray for their continued comfort and healing. This past Tuesday, we recognized the 247th birthday of the U.S. Army. We thank those that answered the call to serve our nation and protect our freedoms. On that same date, 245 years ago, the United States Congress ratified and accepted an official flag of the United States. The symbol of our flag has withheld the test of time through battles, wars, and conflicts. Lord, we look to the skies and the heaven you created in our endless universe, and 50 stars fell from heaven to represent us as a nation under you. Those stars represent each state. The red in our flag stands for the blood that was shed for our freedom. We were reminded of your Son's blood that was shed for our eternal freedom. The white is the purity of a new nation, such as hearing us and purifying us. The blue signifies the diligence, perseverance, and justice. May we always stand for the flag, knowing that our freedoms are not free. Let us pledge allegiance to the flag, our heart to the soldier who defends it, and our lives to you who sacrificed it all for us. Lord, this Sunday we'll remember Juneteenth. This is the day it's generally held to recognize the end of slavery, and we thank you for the end of slavery. May we unite to foster racial, cultural, and community harmony. Father, we are all equal in your eyes, beautifully created in your image. May we cling to you when strife attempts to pull us apart from what you desire us to be. Father, on Sunday we'll also celebrate Father's Day. We thank you for the fathers that have been blessed with a child. Guide them to be good role models and a solid foundation for their children. And Lord, we thank you for those men that have taken on the role of a father in many families. Give them the strength and wisdom as they plant that foundation for those youth. We thank you for adopting us as your children and the gift as you as our Heavenly Father. You instruct us in your word. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not return from it. We know that you have never failed us, and you will guide us. We pray for your clarity on these issues we discussed this morning. Therefore, these things we humbly lay at your feet in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. At this time, we'll convene the Commissioners' public meeting and ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. At this time, we'll have public comment on agenda items only. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on.
All right, 2.0, bid openings. Nikki?
Yes, we had two bids submitted. One was from Miller Environmental Group. Their pricing is $170 to $180 an hour based on how many gallons they haul, and there's an increase for 2023 and 2024. Extreme Trucking, their bid was $125 an hour with no increase for 2023 and 2024.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to reports. 3.1, Jessica. You can do 3.1 and 3.2.
Morning, Jessica.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners.
I have the May personnel action items here for your approval. Over the course of that month, we hired an assistant operations manager for RMS, a few clerks, 5 corrections officers, custodial worker position, deputy for the treasurer's office due to a retirement, domestics relations officer, fiscal tech, gas tech, lieutenant for the prison, a natural resource planner for planning, probation officer for juvenile probation, 3 resident supervisors, a telecommunicator, an executive secretary for the courts, which is a temporary position, and a welder for RMS.
Okay, so they're all replacement positions with the exception of one new position, which is a gas technician at RMS.
And a couple of new part-time clerks.
Yes.
Right. And that gas technician's paid out of the revenue of the landfill. So, well, I mean, in terms of being realistic about where the cost is coming from.
Jason, he made sure that he didn't miss that.
Appreciate it always, sir.
Jessica, I want to compliment you on the fact that we were able to hire 5 correctional officers. You initiated some things like the job fair. I know we didn't have a ton of people coming, but the point is you were out there in the public, and as well as the prison obviously has been out there, and the Sun Gazette had a very nice article. We thanked them about talking about the problem. So that's good news. We still have more we need to hire, and I'm sure the chairman of the prison board is going to want to weigh in on that. But it's good start, and thank you.
Yeah, it's been great, and we also, on June 6th, we rolled out a new applicant tracking system, so that will allow us to reach so much further on the internet to get applicants interested in our positions. We've already seen a huge increase in the applicant flow that we've had, so I have high hopes for recruitment over the next few months.
Jess, thank you for bringing that program to us. They got rave reviews from the prison. Ward Shoemaker said that he's got a lot of applicants through that website, which has been a major plus for the county. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that may have been one of the biggest additions to the county in a long time.
Yep. Very exciting.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
3.2.
Yeah, so we have, I'd like to remove a position from the TDA for the temporary position of HR Special Projects. That was, as Roxanne, the prior HR director, she stayed on for us for a few months to help with the transition. And so we have, we're finished with that process after 5 months, and we're removing that from the TDA. So very much thank Roxanne for all of her help and support over the last 5 months, and for everything that she did in her service with the county.
Yeah, I would echo that. That was really great of her. I mean, when you retire and then the folks ask you to come back, even on a part-time basis, I can put a crimp in your retirement. And so we appreciate that, and as you said, we appreciate all the years she gave to the county too, and to the taxpayers.
I believe it was 32 years.
Yeah.
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 She did a tremendous job.
Okay, a motion.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you, Jess.
3.3, Rayanne.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Presented to you, the cash requirements report for the invoices due through June 15th, 2022 that were paid on June 8th, 2022 in the amount of $1,246,164.11.
Any questions on that report? Any motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Okay. Presented to you are the cash requirements report for the invoices due through June 22nd, 2022 that were paid on June 15th, 2022 in the amount of $677.06.
That's
Okay, great.
It's all right.
$677,672.14. I'm so sorry, there's too many six.
Numbers.
Yes.
You see a lot
And that
of
was
this.
100%, right?
She sees a lot of numbers in the
Oh,
day's
my.
life. Okay,
Well, thank you for getting that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
You're welcome.
nice job.
have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further questions or discussion?
Thank you.
Hearing none, all fair side?
Aye.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
We need to recess the Commissioners' public meeting for the salary board.
We need the salary board at this time.
Jessica.
All right, so, we also need to remove that HR, temporary, title project specialist, Roxanne's temporary position. We also need to, vote on that through the salary board.
Yes, so I have a motion to remove the position.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll adjourn the salary board at this time. And we'll reconvene the Commissioners' public meeting. Action items.
All right, Maya, you're up, 5.1 through 5.6.
Yeah.
Let them rip.
All righty. The first one I have before you is vote to approve on the 2022-2023 Medical Assistant Transportation Program. This is the annual grant agreement and assurance of compliance. The way that they do this is that once we give them all of the information that they need from their trips and everything, and they determine then an allocation, so we'll know what that is after they get all that. So this is just to get us in the system.
Okay. Have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
The next item is to award the food products to Kiko Distributors, Feasers Incorporated, and Cisco Central PA for food products for the prison and pre-release center as part of the quarterly process.
Do you want to take the,
Yeah, let's do both of them at the same time, since they're both,
Yep, and so the next item then is bread products. Bimbo Bakeries, they were the only ones that bid on it, and again, it's for the prison and pre-release.
okay, I have a motion for action items.
I'll move to approve action items 5.2 and 5.3, awarding bids for, in both cases.
I'll second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item I have is vote to approve change order 7 with Lexi Electric. That's for the construction of the health center. This particular change order is for the duct that they are doing in the basement and on the second floor in the IT room, and that's in the amount of $2,530.
Okay, motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further questions or discussion? All fair side? Aye. Commissioner?
Nope. Oh, yes.
Yeah?
I did,
Yes or no?
yes.
Okay, all right, so carried.
The next item, 5.5, is vote to award the auction for miscellaneous surplus computer equipment to Michael Peck. We ended up getting a really surprising amount back from auction, because there's a high demand for IT items right now. So we generated $16,322 from that auction.
16,200?
322.
322.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
That might be a record.
It is a record since I started doing auctions. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yep.
Get your auctioneer's license.
Yeah, right.
All right, that might be a lot.
My little work, yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so too.
I'll move to approve.
That was, I didn't even know what that was. You're some kind of alien or something.
Well, that's what they sound like to me too.
I'll second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the last item I have for you is vote to approve our annual emergency management performance grant application. As in prior years, we're requesting funding to pay 50% of salary and benefits for 3 EMA staff positions out of DPS.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair side?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, thank you, Maya.
All right, thank you.
All right, 5.7 through 5.9, Jason York.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Jason.
Commissioners, 5.7 is approval of purchase of posi shell material from LCS Environmental Services in the amount of $24,848. This is a sole source product. They are proprietary in nature. This is the material that we will put over our waste on the working face. If we have 2 working faces open, we only have enough parts to cover one. We use posi shell. Posi shell is an approved product through our permit with DEP to cover material through the night. This is a tractor trailer load. This will probably last us, I'm guessing, a year, year and a half. Once we get into field 12, we'll probably have to buy more, but we typically try to buy it like this large volume. This is a 2022 budgeted item.
Mr. Yorks, when you put it on, is it like a tarp? Can you reuse it another night or?
No, sir.
No, sir, okay.
It is stayed on like hydro seed,
Uh-huh,
and it just disintegrates and breaks up once you drive over it.
okay.
Keeps everything from flying.
And is it not economical to just buy more tarps?
Now, you could, and the other problem, sir, is the tarp machines are pretty expensive.
Uh-huh,
And if we have, say, we're gonna have an open face, working face in field 12 someday, and then we'll have one in 11, you're talking quite a bit of distance between the 2 places. So typically, hydro seeding or putting this posi shells on is a rather economical, plus it doesn't take up airspace. But we just have to have something as a barrier to keep the vectors out at night.
right. Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay, motion.
I'll move to approve.
All fair side?
Aye.
So carried.
Commissioners, 5.8 is, every year this time I'm in front of you with the approval for the submittal of the annual compliance report. This is for Landford Transfer Station, compliance history for the last year. Actually, this shows any NOVs, violations, anything that we've had. It's for the Board of Commissioners to sign and approve, and then we submit that along with all of our other annual report items to DEP by June 30th each year.
Okay. Motion?
I'll move to approve.
All fair side? So carried.
And lastly, Commissioners, 5.9, approve the purchase of the signage for our mess. This is from the sign shop. This is the amount of $15,495.80. We had 3 quotes. This is a local shop that will be building a sign for our front entrance. As you know, our front entrance signage is in need of replacement, so we are definitely upgrading to a significant sign that it'll be seen from the road, since that whole corridor down here is going to be getting to be an industrial park. We thought it was necessary to upgrade, and that way the public, we usually do have a problem with the public finding our entrance. GPS steers them wrongly, and it's hard to read our signs, so it's time we upgrade our signage and have a little bit better up front on the facility.
Okay, we want to thank your staff for assisting on that.
Yeah, I will say, the staff, we got together and budgeted with you gentlemen last year and the year before, and our staff took it upon themselves to come up with the design. I just stood back and watched, and they had fun with it, and pretty exciting to see it come to fruition for them and enjoy it, be proud of it.
Yeah, it looks very nice, Jason, and this is also paid for by the revenues of landfill, correct?
Yes, sir.
Stole thunder.
Man, you snuck that.
Stole his thunder.
He doesn't say it.
You're slipping.
Yeah.
Okay, a
Sleep
motion?
on the job, I guess.
Motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair side? Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay,
Thank you.
5.1 to 5.10 to 5.12, Nancy?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5.10 is we're seeking your approval for our contract with Jefferson County Detention. And there was no rate increase this year for that detention center.
Okay, great. And it's a 2022 budgeted item. Motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair side? Aye. Carried.
5.11 is we're seeking your approval for our contract with Crossroads Counseling. And that is also no rate increases for Crossroads this year.
Okay, 2022 budgeted item.
Yep.
Motion.
I'll move to approve.
I will second.
All fair side?
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The monies we've been receiving for the settlement.
Therefore, your opioid settlement.
Right.
Yeah.
And this would be something that we'd be able to gladly use that money.
Sure.
My understanding is
Yeah.
it goes towards treatment.
If they have, right, if it's related, that opioid related incident. Yeah.
Okay, and it's to discretion of the commissioners on which categories we can spend it all on?
To be honest with you, I don't know that they've put out that specific,
Yeah.
it just has to be used for opioid education.
Right, I
Education.
haven't seen
Yeah.
the specific guidance on how they can allocate funds.
Yes, it's education and treatment.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just guessing, but I would imagine if we had 100,000 that we used for pass-through, now some of this stuff comes from the state as a pass-through.
The Crossroads, typically, we do not receive bills from Crossroads. It's just when the judge court orders it, we like to have our bases covered and have a contract with them, so.
Right,
it's going through the
so
courts.
this is on an as-needed basis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was gonna say, Commissioner, is I have a feeling that if we wanted to beef up at a place like West Branch, the hiring of, the credentialed counselors, the people who are former,
Right.
and we could do that, because it would be related to opioid, or we could, so it's a way for us to really attack the problem, getting people healthy again.
Shane Madden sits on that, she's the representative that sits on the committee.
West Branch,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that sits on the committee that, statewide.
Yeah,
So it represents us and two other counties,
right.
Union and Northumberland, I believe. I'm not sure if Clinton's involved in that or.
Well, she represents Clinton also,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, but
Right.
I'm talking about the statewide.
Right.
We have a representative and Shay was the one chosen
right.
regarding the settlement. Okay. All fair side?
Aye.
Here, 5.12, seeking your approval for our contract with Community Solutions. This is renewal. There is an increase, 10%, which equals $7.11.
Okay, and again, it's a 2022 budgeted item. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair say aye.
And
Okay,
again,
thank you,
this is-
Commissioners.
This is that MST, that the.
Yeah.
The multi-systemic therapy, which is quite productive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nancy, again, we want to thank you for your work. I always call you the great negotiator.
Thank you.
Because you do help, when these contracts come out, you talk with the agencies, and often you're able to get no increases or small increases, and
Trying.
And
It's harder this year.
it's harder this year.
It's very hard,
it's
yeah.
been very difficult since COVID, but you do a great job, and I want to thank you for
Thank you.
looking out for the taxpayers.
You're welcome. Have a
Thank
good day.
you. You too.
5.13, Beth, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is an amendment to the agreement with Daily Tower Service. It's a 2022 budgeted item, however, there is to extend the end date of the contract to October of 2022. And there was an increase in freight for delivery to the Hesperville Tower site and the Hughesville Tower site, each $2,600, for a total of $5,200 increase.
You understand it, put $190 in my truck.
Yeah. Okay. I have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All fair say aye.
Uh,
Aye.
Beth, we saw a picture of the new constructed tower last night. Tractor sent us a picture of it.
Yes.
Glad to see it's up and,
I am very happy to finally see one in the air.
yeah,
Yeah.
looks impressive.
Oh, it's staying at the base of it, it's even more impressive.
How high is it, Beth, do you know?
250 feet.
Wow.
We're gonna get you guys out there.
Commissioner,
The pyramids of Lycoming County.
Commissioner says,
That's exactly it.
Commissioner says he's gonna try to climb it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
Have a good day.
You too. Okay, 5.14, Shannon?
Jenny, you got the rest of it.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Would it be okay if I did them all together?
Yes, absolutely.
Because they're all basically related.
Yep.
So what we have here are the four contracts that we have currently with Wood Consultants, who is our contractor, our engineering contractor for our levy projects. So we have the overall master service agreement, which we just want to extend further out. So we would be extending that one to December 2024 because our projects are still ongoing. And then we have a time extension also for the relief well oversight and access ramp design contract, which would be extending also to June 30th of 2024. Then we have then we have the amendment to work order number 3, which is the Memorial Avenue and Cross Pike Design Project. That we're extending the time frame to June of 2024 so that we can work with the city on the risk analysis, the SQRA risk analysis that we're hoping to get done with that, so that will give more guidance to Wood on where we might possibly need to go with the engineering design. What they will be doing is moving forward and start designing the cross pipes that were also part of that project, because we do have an EDA grant for that. They have to hold off on the engineering design for Memorial Avenue right now, because with the risk analysis, we're not sure where we're gonna be going. So they're going to move forward with the other portion of that contract, which is the cross pipe design, so we can get that bid out as soon as that design is finished. But we'd be sending that to June of 2024. So, and then the final one is, it was a time extension and a cost increase for the operations strategy and SWIFT update for the Williamsport and South Williamsport levies. And what that strategy did was it took their operation and maintenance manual and went through it line by line and worked with both the city and South Williamsport to identify what the manual requires, because that manual is basically, if it's followed to the T, then anything that happens to the levee that is storm related will be then fixed by the Army Corps, if you follow the manual to a T. And currently, the staff are not able to adequately meet the needs of the operation and maintenance manual. So what Wood did was they sat down with both the borough and South and the city. They went through what their staff, how much time it takes them to do each item, and they also went through the different qualifications that staff will need in the future to be able to truly evaluate the different items. And they came up with an actual, it was presented basically as both a calendar and an Excel sheet. So what they did was they put all of that information that has to be gathered and reviewed and then also inspected by the staff. You have to have multiple staff, and there's so many items that have to be done. They put that into a calendar to make sure that they had the appropriate staff with there was no overlap with that staff. So now that we have that study, we'll be able to discuss with the commissioners and the city and South Williamsport about where to go from here. So, and that change order was $70,861.
So, you know, I think it's important for the public to understand that the kind of work that you just described is critical to protecting our ability to get the damage to the levee paid for in the future. But that on the positive side, if we do all these things, we know that the Army Corps will pay for the repairs, which are massively expensive, very expensive. But the difference is that, and this isn't because of anybody's negligence, but in the past, the levee hasn't been really attended to the way it needs to be attended to be in compliance with federal, is a fair way of saying. It's more than just mowing the grass, and that's gonna cost money. It's somebody literally walking the levee, looking for breaches, looking for little problems, doing as you said, a 50-page list of items, checking every pump station, checking all the electrical connections, making sure the pumps go on and off and so on.
The predicted storm inspection that most folks probably forget about is probably critical, pre and post, because if there's damage, it'll be covered, but if you don't do it.
And so, just so the public understands, in the past, they had about 9 people in the department, now they're down to about 2 at the city, right?
Correct.
2 actual out there in the field, and
Yeah.
then you have like in the city side, you've got the engineer and you've got the streets
Right.
first director, but there's only really 2 guys out in the field, and that's, I think, from the consultant's point of view, I believe it was anywhere from 9 to 12 people, I think, for the city, in addition to, who's already there. And I think, I'm trying to remember for South Williamsport.
4?
It was 4 or 5. It was 4 or 5 in addition to people that are already there. But you have to compare, South Williamsport levee is a lot smaller, and they have many fewer pump stations.
Right.
So, but, when you're looking at, it's not just mowing the lawn. You can't do an inspection by mowing the lawn, because you have to, the gates all have to be tested. As you said, the pumps, one of the other things is, the Army Corps does an inspection every year. If one time they go in and those pumps don't start, there's a big issue then. So just having somebody go in there and making sure, and it can't just be somebody who's mowing the lawn and also turning the pump on. It has to be a certified electrician, so those are the types of things that have to happen. And especially with pumps this old, I mean, we are very lucky that they have lasted this long. They are not replaceable now. You can't get parts for these systems, so anything that breaks has to be made. And you hope that you can find a part, or you hope that you can have a part made, so.
The reason I brought that up is because the same proactive attention that is done to the levee is what we should try to do throughout the county for resiliency in flooding of other areas. And of course, that requires staff to do that too. In other words, making sure streams don't have items in them causing it, making sure that we are building riprap and so forth where we need to. And of course, doing all that would help build a resiliency so that in the event of flooding, which we know is going to happen, we would have less damage to property, less loss of life.
Matt, stand by just for a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, can I have an action item, motion for action item 5.14 through 5.17.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, Shannon, stand by for a minute, please.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioners' comments, do you have anything?
I do, but you do your comment first. He's got to go.
Okay, first of all, I want to acknowledge and wish the Montgomery softball high school team well today. They play, I believe they're starting to play now, 10:30, 11 o'clock for the state title. So we wish the Montgomery girls softball team the best of luck, and hopefully they'll come back. They're champions no matter what, but hopefully they'll come back with a championship. So best of luck to those girls and the entire school district. The other thing, I want to give everybody an update. Last Thursday, Director McDermott and Director Shannon Rossman from the Planning Department and myself went to Harrisburg to Washington on a trip to visit our congressmen and our senators regarding the levy. And on Thursday morning, we met with Senator Toomey's office and had a great meeting with the senator. He was supportive of the levy, obviously. He has 6 months left in office, but he wants to do a support letter for the levy project. We explained to him that we have $4 billion worth of industry behind the 20-mile stretch. That includes South Williamsport, Old Lake Cumming, Williamsport, and Loyalsock. That all the communities are invested in this. We explained that 87% of our economic activity is behind this, 80% of our tax base, 45% of our workforce, and 44% of our residents live behind this levee. And it's a 75-year-old levee that needs to be updated. The parts can't be replaced anymore. And we've been actively working with the Army Corps and all the partners that I described above, the townships, the city have been working diligently on this project. So he was willing to do his letter of support. Then we had the opportunity to connect with Congressman Users over lunch. He wanted an update. He's not newly elected in this area, but he did state if he's blessed to be the one to win the election, he wanted to know what was going on in Lake Cumming County, and we explained the levee project to him. And his philosophy is that you write a support letter, then you follow up with a phone call, then you follow up with a visit. And in Washington, he says the way you get things done is you let them know that you're not going away. And he plans to let them know if elected he's not going away. That this will be dear to his heart, that he'll be working on this if he's elected, I'll be our representative. We also talked about the coroner's building, the forensic building. He says there's a similar problem down in Schuylkill County with their coroner. So he is aware of situations like this, but he'd be willing to assist us on that. And lastly, we brought up the airport, how vital it is to have airport commercial airline service in this county. He said, ironically, one of his staffers I just saw on Fox News in D.C. a report on our airport and from Lake Cumming County. So he was going to follow up with Senator Yaw on that to get better educated on what was taking place at our local airport. Then we made a trip over to Congressman Keller's office and met with our congressman. He has put in an $8 million request for the levee. He plans on working on this. He wants to see this happen before he leaves office, and we thanked him for his continued support. And then lastly, we visited with the Chief of Staff of Senator Casey's office, and they have put in a $3 million request for the levee, so that would be a total of $11 million towards the levee, and $1 million towards the coroner's building. And they put that in their budget to hopefully be approved sometime in July or early August. And then they asked us what we were doing with our ARPA monies. And we went into detail on what Lake Cumming County's strategic plan was and how these monies have to be spent on a generational type approach. And when we got finished with our presentation, they were extremely impressed. Said that some counties haven't even talked about how they're going to spend their ARPA monies. Some have kept them within house. Some are not detailed, but they were impressed that we have contacted all the players, everybody in our county. We've thought basically of everybody and put a lot of time and energy into our planning. Shannon talked about the application process and the total request that we have. We're in the final stages of going through those applicants, those 119 applicants that have registered and applied for those monies. And then the commissioners will be approaching voting those out in the near future. And the reaction was, you guys should be commended on your approach with those ARPA monies. So overall, it was a great day. We were with our Keller and Associates, who also represents the city on the levee project. They were instrumental in setting up the meetings, and overall we felt that we had a very productive day down here, and I look forward to following up in the very near future. we came back satisfied. Shannon, anything you want to add, or the director?
I was just really pleased with how much time, especially Congressman Research took with us, because, he's not even our legislative representative yet, and really took a lot of time. All of them took a considerable amount of time, more than I expected, and were very interested in what we had to say. And so I was very pleased.
We were not able to connect with G.T. Thompson's office due to his other obligations, but we do know that he is supportive of our area and our levy, and we look forward to meeting with his office in the near future. If also he's elected, he represents the South Side area, and has been a tremendous asset to his area. And so we look forward to hopefully working with him in the near future too.
Commissioner, the only thing I would add is that, out of the multiple trips we've been on, all of the representatives down there truly understand what the need is. And I think it's a combination of all of the commissioners, visits, and the outstanding relationship that Keller and Associates has built with their staff. They have their go-to people, and they get us the letters we need and the communication, so it works really well.
To that point, sometimes when the public sees that we'll pay a consultant in Washington, they may ask questions. What a group like Keller and Associates has been able to do is to keep the issue in front of these elected officials on an ongoing basis. I mean, obviously, we do that too. We go on trips, we write letters, we call them, they come here. But sometimes it's having that extra knowledge also. For example, Tom Keller was instrumental in finding for us in the federal budget the language that enabled us to get some previous money.
Into the Word?
Yeah, into the Word bill. So, well, that was a good trip.
The city's been down there. Mike Miller from the Water Authority's been down there, and we made our trip, and we look forward to continue to work on this extremely important project. We explained to them that this is our comprehensive study. This is the #1 threat facing economic viability and sustainability in Lycoming County. We expressed to them the insurance rates that some of our businesses are paying in the industrial park region, and they were quite alarmed to see the amounts that they were paying. And we said that those would obviously be reduced once that levy would be updated.
So the thing that we also need the public to think about is that we can get this money to fix the levee and do all the repairs, the $8 million, the $3 million. At the end of the day, the government, federal and state, is not going to front the cost on a day-to-day basis of doing all that maintenance and operations that Shannon referred to earlier. And we as citizens in Lycoming County need to decide, and that's why I mentioned earlier about the flooding, the resiliency. The big question is, does this only fall on the backs of the people who live behind the levee, the 45%, or is it something that's shared countywide so that we also can pick up the nonprofits? Because if it's a tax issue, then the nonprofits won't be paying towards it, but they will get a lot of protection. If it's some sort of authority that assesses a fee, then it'll go on, it could go on everyone who is protected in some way from the funds raised. You can't assess a fee on somebody and then not use the fee, but there are resiliency issues having to do with flooding besides the levee. There are places that if we do proactive work in outer reaches, in Brown Township, in all these places that are not right behind the levee, we can prevent damage, we can save lives, we can protect property, and more importantly, we can build a solid community. And that's a question we have to grapple with, we have to debate. I have been pretty clear that I believe that we need to share it with everyone in the county, because the burden otherwise becomes too much, and too much goes neglected. When we went, Commissioner was there, when we saw the flooding that happened, even in that incident up there in McIntyre, people's homes just swept off their foundations, who didn't expect to have flooding. So whatever, I think it's something we need to think about as a community, and that we're all in this together.
Well, we have to also realize, we've had meetings with our state officials about cleaning up the streams, being able to get into the streams and clean up the streams that have debris in them, broken trees, down trees, that are acting as dams, that are rerouting the waters, that, I talked to a gentleman up Route 87 during the election process, and he's been through 3 floods, and he had a backhoe parked right there. He said, if I could get out in that stream and move those logs, I wouldn't have this issue. So we have to continue to push hard on that, because these small streams happen. We have flooding in Muncie, Montgomery, and Torresville, Loyalsock as a result of this, and even northern part of Lycoming County through all these floods that where there hasn't been cleanups in the streams.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
The only thing I'll add is that, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes, and Wood's done a great job for us, you and your staff, but it just seems like it's dragging on, and like, when are we gonna start?
Yeah.
You know, when do you start to see it happen?
Right.
And let's push before any other costs go up.
I know, it's just, yeah. Well, one nice thing with the issue that we have with the recent relief well bids, where we're gonna have to reject what we received because it was double what we thought was a high bid, and they came back double. And so, what the Army Corps has, our consultant has reached out to the Army Corps and said, hey, the reason it came back double was because all of the ambiguity within the Army Corps language. And because of that, we've done everything we possibly can to make it as clear as possible from the county side of things, and from, where there may be issues with having to withdraw water, with some of the environmental factors. We cut down on as much as we could, expecting it to come back, but unfortunately, with the ambiguity that the permits and the design language has, the Army Corps, they put in what they thought, because of the fact that, without the Army Corps' clarifications, they can't lose money. And it's a business, you don't wanna lose money, that's why you're bidding on a project, to make money. So our local liaison with the Army Corps has agreed to be part of the process for the new bids, which will go out probably the first week in September and be due the first week of November. And he is pushing to find funds for the different division that deals with the engineering and technical review portion, so that we can get those questions answered during the process, so that if somebody's asking about, do we really need to pump 1,000 gallons a minute for X amount of hours, do we need to do this, is this required? And so that we can get those answers during the RFP process, rather than getting a number that's based upon the most highest, possibility. We can actually get a number based on reality. Just something as simple as a newer type of drilling method versus an older type of drilling method that may not be used as much anymore. And the firm is using the newer drilling, of course, they're staying productive with the times, and so.
Okay, thank you. The last thing is, we're in the final stages of working on the ARPA funds, and as we stated earlier, there's 119 applications that have totaled $80 million, 25 million in-house, and 55 million from entities in the county, that are outside agencies. And so we'll be finalizing and having those discussions in the very near future on how we're going to allocate those funds and vote on them.
I have
Yes.
Yeah, so Commissioner Becerra and I attended the Williamsport Area Transportation Study, the Watts meeting, which the three of us alternate on going to. And there's an important listening session coming up. Mark Morawski, who was the former transportation supervisor here, sits on a statewide transportation advisory committee. And this problem with our airport is a problem that is not just us alone. It is in Du Bois, Venango, Johnstown, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Lehigh Valley, and Pittsburgh. They're going to have listening sessions to try to deal with the fact that our current state aviation system is not really functioning the way it should be. So Williamsport, Monday, June 20th, 3 to 5. It's in person. Mark Morawski is the local contact, 320-8117. Members of the public are welcome. There's going to be some discussion there of aviation issues, some regional perspectives. There'll be an opportunity for public comment, and I would really encourage the public to come out, especially those members of the public who can stand up and say, you know what, I would really love to expand my business, but the problem is that I can't have any guarantee that I'm going to be able to get in supplies or I'm going to be able to get people in. We know that there are, when national entities want to establish something in a particular place, they want to know that they can get people in and out in a day and not have to spend 2 days for a 2-hour visit to Williamsport. People who can come and talk about tourism, about how we could really boost tourism. We are the gateway to the PA Wilds, and yet you can't just get on a plane in Boston or New York and get here. So that's one thing that's very important for people to get out to. The other thing is on Saturday, June 25th, the Central Susquehanna Valley Thruway is having an open house. There was an article in the paper, though they didn't give the specifics. From what we were told at the Watts meeting, it's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The public will be able to hike or bike. Access is from Route 147, the new interchange with Montandon. So if you want to go down and see that, and that is going to have a significant impact on us also. So those are two things. But do try to get out. Some of us have, I want to attend the airport, but we have another function also, but we're going to try to get there for part of it at least.
And where is it held? Because I didn't see that.
Okay, that is being held
At the airport.
at the airport.
At the airport.
Yeah,
At
the
the airport
big
in the major
atrium.
area.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on that.
No,
paper.
yeah, you're right. They mentioned it to us. It's at the, yeah,
It's in the main seating area.
right. Oh, and Commissioner, the reason you said the Fox, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, small cities lose flights despite airline travel boom. This is the Wall Street Journal, June 8th, and they reference the Williamsport Airport, and actually Richard Howell, the work that he's been doing on trying to solve this problem. So the public knows we're not, it's not something we're ignoring. It's just a complicated problem. And I'll just give it quick. It's complicated partly because when they deregulated airlines in 1978 and 1980, they used to have to fly everywhere. They deregulated it. Now they don't have to. If they can't make money flying out of Williamsport, they're not legally obligated to. Some of us think maybe there should be a legal obligation. I know we don't like regulations, but the truth is that unless we require it, it's going to be very difficult to get a major airline here.
Before you close, I'd just like to state that Flag Day was a very nice ceremony, and I have to really give thanks to all the scout leaders, all the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. They're all one group now, I believe, but these kids are dedicated, and they're learning the values of what it means to be a citizen and what it means about community. And I can't thank those leaders enough for what they do and how many Eagle Scouts they do produce. They are our future leaders. And when you go to places, especially like ceremonies for the veterans, and you hear the keynote speakers, generals, admirals, it's impressive. College presidents, how many of them will first say that I am an Eagle Scout? I mean, it's awesome. And they were there in force. I'd like to see more public come to those events, just to learn about our history. But thanks again for all those leaders, the Scouts.
Thank you. Public comment at this time?
Morning, Mark.
You guys need my name or address or anything?
Just
my
your
name?
name.
Mark Sortman, and actually, if I can, I'm representing Lowestoft Township as the chairman for these comments. Just to go back to the levy. So somewhat, we were a little snubbed in the whole process, but the value of that tells me that Lowestoft Township has done the right thing and our levy is in good shape. So that's the positive. Just want to share a couple other ideas with the commissioners. Totally understand Commissioner Marabito's thought process, and I'm not disagreeing with the thought process that it's a big picture and maybe all the taxpayers need to support part of that. But what I'd like to just say is Loyalsock did do the right things, and we're not in the position, and didn't put the county commissioners in the position that the city of Williamsport and the city of South Williamsport has done. My thought would be that as you move forward, whether it becomes a big picture for all taxpayers or not, once the work is complete, I would like to see that the county commissioners have a program in play with the other municipalities that own the levies, that they do follow the Corps of Engineers recommendations annually, and it doesn't become a multi-million-dollar problem. And I think if from a county standpoint, not necessarily taking the program over, but making sure the municipalities that are in charge of their own areas follow some sort of a schedule.
So just, and I don't want my comments to be misconstrued. I wasn't saying that somehow the city in South Williamsport had been delinquent. I think that it's an incredibly expensive responsibility. One of the things, and I totally respect that every municipal and elected official on what they've done. Loyalsock, is protected, at least 45 businesses in Loyalsock are protected by the city of Williamsport levy. Loyalsock doesn't contribute anything to the city, I don't believe.
That is correct.
For that protection.
And I will add.
And I'm
we've
not
offered
throwing
that.
a, what's that?
We've offered it.
Okay, and I'm not throwing a
With
stone
no-
at it, because at
Right.
the end of the day,
Well,
I'm just
and
trying
I don't
to.
mean to either.
No, I know you
That's
don't.
my point would be is
Right.
just that there's a plan
Right. We know.
to never get us in this position again.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're absolutely right, and that's why I said that we need to really get down to discussing how we're gonna fund this. Senator Yaw, when he met with us 3 or 4 years ago, said, listen, you guys have to come up with a plan to pay for operations and maintenance, and we have to do that. We have to do it, and we have to do it soon, because every year that goes by is a year that we lose revenue. I look at the levy as the bridge bundling. When many hands, my mother used to tell us, when many hands work together, you make light the work, right? And so, we can either just put the burden on Loyalsock and South Williamsport and Old Lake Cumming. Old Lake Cumming doesn't even own any levy, right? We can, those three, South Williamsport, the Williamsport, and Loyalsock, to carry the burden. Or we can try to find a way that we spread the responsibility over everyone. Because if I'm in Hepburn Township and I gotta go to the hospital, chances are I'm going to UPMC. And if UPMC is flooded as a result of the breach in the levy, I'm not gonna be treated, right? So I live in Hepburn Township, I don't live in the city, but I'm gaining a huge benefit. And my small contribution will make it so that the taxpayers in those 3 municipalities don't have to carry the whole burden, including Loyalsock. And if we can sweeten the pie by saying, listen, Hepburn Township, you've got a problem with this creek. That needs to be addressed. As Commissioner Metzger said, there's debris in that creek that needs to be cleaned out. Someone needs to be on top of making sure we get in touch with DEP and get a backhoe in there and doing all that. If we can find a way to craft a solution that helps every member of the county, and everyone gives a little bit, we will be better off as a community. So I appreciate your comments. I'm saddened that you guys feel you were snubbed. We weren't trying to snub you. I think what happened is some of the meetings, there was so much focus. You did use the word snubbed, right?
I did use the word
Yeah.
snubbed, yes.
Some of the
Not
meetings were,
intentionally.
some of the
No, that was
meetings.
intentional.
No, okay. Some of the
Oh, the
meetings,
snubbing wasn't intentional, the verbiage was.
no, but Mr. Sortman, some of the meetings were so focused on South Side and the city that I think they kind of felt like we didn't want to be having you guys tied up. But we definitely, appreciate and we want your input and we want your participation,
Yeah. I won't say that part back. Absolutely, right. And again, from Loyalsock's standpoint, all we would ask is, once this program's done, you know, because we do feel that our township and our taxpayers have supported that levy on our own. So when the program's done, just don't forget us to be a part of it.
No, we won't. We won't, and we appreciate the input that Bill Burdette and others have brought to the meeting.
Yeah, and I've reached out to Bill's about 6 months ago, and I went to the commissioner when I found out that they had not been invited to one of the meetings. I said, that's an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue. We got Bill on the phone right away, and I said to Shannon, I said, well, Sox got to make sure they have a seat at the table. And she said, they will. So,
I didn't know that you guys had offered to pay either. I didn't know that you
Yeah.
offered to pay for those. that part.
Yeah, we said, you know, we would look at, you know, so if you know, and this, I'll make this as a public comment, you know, if there's a, when you look at the big picture and River Avenue area and everything is what is affected by Loyalsock's, by Williamsport's owned levy, we are very happy to look at that percentage. I think where the talks went bad then is it was the discussion of Old Lycoming coming 1/3, Williamsport 1/3, Loyalsock 1/3, and we would not agree to that. We said we would agree to, you know, measure it, give us a percentage, and we would agree to helping with those costs.
And what I'm
that percentage.
suggesting is getting away from that model completely and saying this is a countywide problem, we are a county, you know. I mean, I guess if you live on the border of the New York state line and you never come down to Williamsport and you're going up to New York State, you could argue that, well, that's where the suggestion that we've been, or at least I've been kicking around, but I think Commissioner Massare has brought attention to the fact he's been involved with the watershed. And one of the reasons that a project didn't get off the ground there is they needed money. And if they had money, they had a lot of people engaged in it, and if they'd had money, they could have corrected some of the problems in the streams up north.
Well,
So-
and it starts with the state. The state has to loosen those regulations of us going into the streams to be able to clean them up. And you can collect all the fees you want in the world. If the state says you can't go in those streams, it's not gonna happen.
Well, you can go in from the shore. What you can reach from the shore, you can get on it. So then you get
You
yourself a
gotta get out.
really, really long pole or whatever. Look, we cross each problem as we get to it, right? But the first one is getting, we have to post haste get a plan down to fund this.
Pat thought we were gonna be done by 11 o'clock. She has
I think the intention from DEP 20 years ago when they made those decisions was probably good, not realizing the problem they were gonna cause exactly 20 years down the line, so they probably need to.
Has to be revisited. Yep.
And I'll just make one quick comment. I have been following the airport, and it is interesting. One of the things that was on the Fox News comment, and I always think anytime you're mentioned, whether good or bad, is good. So it was great that Williamsport was mentioned on national news. I think that's awesome. But the thing I was most amazed by was I believe they said a 25% shortage of pilots.
That's a big issue.
And
Yeah,
that's
that is
the
a
big
big
issue.
It's a big issue right
And
now.
I'm not sure
Pilots aren't
that
there.
any of us, including State College, over the next 5 years are gonna have commercial airline. You know, Rick, I agree 100%, or Commissioner Maravita, 100% with your comment. You know, if you don't you know, we don't want that legislation, but you're probably never gonna get somebody without it. So, thank you guys. for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service as the chairman of the Loyalsock Supervisors.
Thank you. Morning, Tom.
Morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Okay, well, so, yeah, I guess with the levy, I suppose they have a 3D scanners, they scan that every so often, maybe to check those pumps and that whole area, probably helpful, I'm sure they do, but, so it's good to hear that, you know, have plans start moving ahead with this. Pretty important. And bringing up the airfield, that's something else that sure you'd want to protect from flooding too. So I guess even federal government might even be more interested in something like that to make sure things are up because of that. Of course, I think our military can pretty much land in almost any condition, but if they had to get in, probably better for them if it wasn't flooded out. Also, With the Flag Day, it's really great that Williamsport has that ceremony. It's great, and I missed it. Kind of wore out it. But it is good. It's really good. And with the Juneteenth, when I first heard that, I thought, that's pretty neat. I never heard of that. And I heard some people complain about it. I said, no, that's pretty important, because we're down in Texas, and then we're still kind of fighting a war that's over. And they finally get the news. Well, man, that's great news, it comes across, and as long as people listen to it and obey it, that's even better. That's really interesting piece of history that we have. And so, all that goes to, moving our country forward and, trying to correct wrongs and do things better. There's going to be another public prayer meeting over at Savoy Plaza, the room next to Pudgy's in Montoursville, 6:30 Friday. It's informal. People come and go as they need, because we'll be in the spirit of prayer. God won't be offended, no one else will be offended if you have to get up while someone's praying and, get something to eat or something to drink, or, use the restroom or whatever. Just thought I'd mention it, because it's pretty important to our country, I think. I wanted to mention, you had the last public meeting, or the last meeting we had the American Rescue Workers. I have a friend who had to use them, in a very well-run organization. I went in there and spoke with one of the administrators, and they run it as a tight ship. That's how they need to be run, and it's almost, very thankful for something like that. They're really well run. It's important. I guess some things that are, we see how our society has really slid down in a lot of ways, from the founder's vision. There's one thing, I think it's really important for us to remember, keep in mind. I speak to myself too with our language. Sometimes, but we hear a lot of bad language. I remember as a kid, it started coming in, and it's just growing out of control. You have people cursing on the airways, and just it's offensive. It's offensive to God. It's offensive to man, and it brings down our expectations of others, and it actually lowers our morale, and not just morale, but morality. And Washington, when he had the Continental Army, one of his deals was, if there's any cursing, there was no court martial, nothing. It was the guy would get 25 lashes, just for starting cursing. He was really adamant about that. He was a strong Christian man, and because he knew once he allowed that, things start to slide, you get bad reputation, and people just don't care. This is kind of where we're going, where we're at. So, just hope we can turn our hearts back to the Lord and back to caring about each other, which is great about this county. Just keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And in response to your comments about the rescue workers, they are a great organization. We're thankful they're here. And we weren't able to line up anybody for today, but next week we'll have fire chief place. So, look forward to having them here speaking.
We should mention it, and I'm glad you brought it up because we kind of missed it. You mentioned it in your prayer, but Juneteenth celebration, Saturday, Brandon Park, band shell, 12 to 5 or so. Public is welcome, and hopefully public will come out. Thanks for bringing that up again, Tom.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay.
No one else this time? Okay, we'll be adjourned. We've completed our agenda, and our next meeting will be Thursday, June 23rd, 10 a.m. right here in this room. Have a great week, and thank you.
They gotta try to protect the water.
Yeah, the golf course.
Oh,
I
my
got the
God.
tournament tomorrow. If Kevin texted me right away, he says,
Probably.